Hello, and welcome to our session, Building Blocks for Using Azure-native Experimentation. My name is Evelyn Shaw, and I am a Senior Engineering Manager at Split Software. I'm joined today by my colleague Santiago Vitullo, who is a software engineering lead here at Split as well. Today, we're excited to talk to you about our new offering, Split Experimentation for Azure App Config. Today, we'll show you how to use this new product so that your team can release faster and more safely by measuring the impact on your feature flag releases. We're excited to announce that this offering is currently available in public preview. So what can this help you with? There's a couple of different ways to use split experimentation, and these are some of our main use cases. The first one is monitored rollouts. So the worst feeling is when you release something and then you realize you've broken something and you're scrambling to fix it. Split experimentation provides feature-level observability so that you can have the confidence that you're doing no harm during your release. You can measure different business and technical operational metrics, things that your R&D team cares the most about as you release. The next use case is around intelligent apps. If you're building an AI app today, you know that sometimes it can feel a bit like a black box. It's hard to know sometimes if you're getting the value that you're hoping for with the features that you're putting out. With experimentation, you're able to rapidly test, identify issues, and take action. You can set the metrics that you care about that you want to see positive and negative impacts on. Then you don't have to rely on guessing or waiting for it to become a larger problem. Lastly, we also help with A/B testing. This is the classic use case that many people think about experimentation for. A/B testing allows you to identify which variant is most aligned with the business outcomes that you're looking for, and then decide which one to push to the rest of your users. Again, there are many different cases for using split experimentation, but chances are your team or organization already has one of these cases that you can start testing the product with. So how does split experimentation work? Essentially, what we're doing is taking feature flag data from Application Config Feature Manager, joining that with Application Insights metrics, and then putting both of those things under the Split attribution engine so that you can automatically measure the impact of every feature release. All of this is done natively through the Azure Console. When users release updates behind a variant feature flag in Application Config, they can now click a flag and immediately see the impact on the metrics that they care about, whether they broke something or if they had a positive lift. So now I will hand it over to my colleague Santi to go ahead and do a live demo.
Thank you, Evie. Let's go through a scenario. An e-commerce company has set up a goal to increase purchases this quarter. Alyssa, Mark, and Christina are employees at this company, working in the team responsible for the customer's purchase experience. Alyssa is a product manager. Mark would act as the engineering manager, and Christina is a software engineer. After reviewing product analytics and customer feedback, Alyssa believes that using a new approach for product recommendations will increase purchases. The existing product recommendation algorithm recommends those products that are most popular. The team has decided to move forward with 2 new implementations of the product recommendation API to see if any of those meet the goal of increasing purchases. They are already using Azure App Configuration and App Insights, so they decide to use Split Experimentation for Azure. In order to measure the success of the new implementations, they set up an experimentation metric to validate if the purchases are increasing. Additionally, they also want to ensure that the customer experience isn't affected by increased API latencies. So they set up another experimentation metric for that. A few days later, they go into app configuration to see the results. As a baseline, they choose the existing product recommendation API and they compare it to one of the implementations. In this scenario, we can see that the purchases are increasing and the API latencies are not affected. Now it is time to look at how the existing product recommendation API compares to the other new alternative. In this other scenario, we can see that while the purchases are increasing, the API latencies have increased as well, which is not ideal from a customer experience. Now I'll hand it off to Evie, who will show you how you can set this up.
All right, great. Thank you, Santi. So let's go ahead and show you how to get this set up. So in order to use split experimentation, we do have a few prerequisites. Namely, you have to be using Application Config Feature Manager for variant feature flags. And then you also have to be using Application Insights for your application performance and usage tracking. We do have some GitHub Quick Start resources that are available, and they'll walk you through this entire setup process. It'll also do a couple other parts of it, including the setting up of the data access control and enter ID, and then also show you how to create an application that you want to experiment on with a new telemetry SDK. For the purposes of this demo, we're going to assume that you have those two pieces already created. So now let's go ahead and go into Azure. All right, so here you are in Azure in your application config store. You've already created the resource for your application config. So we're going to go ahead and open that up. You'll see now in here that you have a new telemetry tab and a new experimentation tab. So in the telemetry tab, you can go ahead and connect your application insights, as you can see here. Once that is connected, you want to go ahead and jump to your experimentation tab. So you'll see here now that you have this option to hit Create New to make a new split experimentation workspace. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And that will open up a new tab. And this is the new creation flow for the split experimentation workspace. This will guide you through the entire creation process. So I'm going to go ahead and create this. So I want to make sure I have the right subscription. I'm going to set the resource group that I want this to be on. And then I'll go ahead and name this one the Split Experimentation Training Resource. This is my region, and then you will also see information about the pricing plan here. Then I'm going to go ahead and hit my data source. So just like you connected the application config resource, you want to go ahead and connect the data source here. So here I'm going to select the same application insights. And then I'm also going to select the storage account as well. The next step here is the access policy. So I will go ahead and put the workspace, the enter ID that I have created for this resource and this workspace. Then if I wanted to go ahead and put tags, I could put that here. And now I'm going to review and create. So everything looks good here. I've double checked everything. And I'm going to hit create. So now my split experimentation workspace is getting deployed. And you'll see here that this process can take anywhere from 30 seconds to a couple of minutes. But as it's deploying, you'll see the resource getting created, as well as any other details. Okay, and now my deployment is complete. So I'm going to go ahead and now go to this resource. So here's my new split experimentation workspace resource. You can see that I've created a data source and it's connected here. And then now I'm going to go ahead and set up my metrics. So when you have a new experimentation workspace, you're not going to have any metrics. So I'm going to go ahead and create the ones that we talked about in this scenario. So here I have an API latency. I'm going to name this one on the event name API latency as well. And for this one, we're going to look for the average. Now I want the API latency in this scenario to decrease. So I'm going to go ahead and set that there. And I will create that metric. So that's our first metric. And then I'll go ahead and create the second one that we're comparing it to. In this case, we're looking for a purchase. And on the purchase one, this is going to be a count, and we're going to look for this one to increase. We would like to see more purchases over time. And I create that. Okay, so now your split experimentation workspace is set up. You have your data source connected, and you've created the metrics that you want to measure against. Okay, great. So now I'm going to go back to my application config resource. All right, so now we're back in application config. And as you see now, we have created a split experimentation workspace. So I'm going to go ahead and look for this here. Let's refresh and that should show up the new workspace. And there it is. Let's go ahead and save this here. Great. And now you've connected this split experimentation workspace to your application config. And so the next step, now that you have things connected and you have your metrics, is you want to create the feature flag. You want to create the actual experiment. So here I go to my feature manager, and I'm going to create a variant feature flag. I'm going to call this product recommendation. I'm going to hit enable feature flag here. And then you can set your variants. So in this case, I have several variants that I'm testing on. I'm going to make v1 my baseline variant. So this is what everything is going to be compared against. And then I'm going to test two specific variants against this. So I'm going to create a v2 and a v3. Great. So now I have two variants that I can compare against my v1. Then I set the allocation, and in this case, I'm going for an even split of traffic. I'm going to hit telemetry here, enable telemetry, so I start sending the data from this feature flag. And then I'm going to make this an experiment. And I'm going to call this experiment the same name, so product recommendation. Then hit review and create. You can take a look, make sure everything looks correct. You have your versions, you have your allocations, telemetry experiment enabled, and I hit create. Okay, perfect. So now I've created this feature flag. And then after some time, after you start receiving data, you'll be able to then see the results flow. And that is how you set it up. All right, so let's review a few things in our slide. Okay, so that was split experimentation for Azure App Config. So in this product, you saw us do a number of things. Split experimentation essentially lets you extend the feature flags that you already have in App Config, and then the application injects metrics to be able to unlock experimentation and measure metrics right away. You're able to automatically measure the impact on the metrics you care about. And you can create different kinds of metrics, product ones, technical ones, performance ones, whichever ones that your team wants to monitor and check on during your releases. It also is a way for you to detect, triage, and resolve issues faster. You don't have to wait for things to become a big problem. You can start to see right away when you have an impact on the metrics that you care about. And then lastly, by being able to react quickly, being able to get the data as you're doing the release, you're able to prevent big issues from happening. And this helps improve your developer happiness and psychological safety of your team. All right, and that is it. Thank you very much for spending the time to listen to this session. To get started, you can go ahead and find Split Experimentation Workspace in the Azure Marketplace. Thank you very much.